Today we are going to talk about dihybrid genetics. So we're going to learn another type of Punnett Square problem. If you don't have your notebook out, go ahead and get it out. You see an example of kind of what we're going to learn here. Looks super complicated, but I promise it uses all the same steps you already know. Our first question is, what the heck is a dihybrid problem? So here's our learning target. You're going to be able to predict the offspring phenotypes and genotypes for a dihybrid cross. First, we need to know what a dihybrid cross is. It is a genetic problem with two traits. So instead of just talking about, flower color, right? Is it purple or white? We're also talking about a second trait. Maybe stem length. Is it short or is it tall? So we're combining two problems, and I would write this down. We talked about monohybrid crosses, mono meaning one. So monohybrid traits, meaning we've got tall flowers or short flowers, okay? Just looking at one gene. Dihybrid, we're looking at two, maybe flower color and stem height, okay? So two traits, and we're gonna track them at the same time. If you need more time to write, go ahead and hit pause, otherwise I'm gonna continue on. So let's see an example, okay, where we have a genotype, some genes, with two traits. So we have up here, capital B is for brown eyes, lowercase b, blue eyes. Capital T for tall, lowercase t for short, okay? So an individual that's big B, little b, and big T, little t, what would be their phenotype? What would be their physical appearance? Because they have a big B, they would have brown eyes, and because they have a big T, they would be tall. So brown eyes and tall. You do the next one. Little b, big T, big T. This individual would have blue eyes and be tall. And one last one. Big B, little t, little t. This individual would have brown eyes and would be short. So same thing that you guys have already known about with dominant and recessive traits. The only difference here is we've got two different traits that we're talking about. So how do we do a Punnett square with two traits? Okay, first we have to determine which gene combinations can go into the sperm and egg. You don't have to write anything down from this slide, but I'm going to show you what I mean. So with one trait, it was really easy. Don't have to write anything down here. Okay, we have mom had big eye, little eye. So one big eye went into the egg and the little eye went into the other egg, right? These are the possible eggs we could have. Now mom doesn't just have two eggs. She's going to make tons and tons of eggs, but about 50% are going to have one eye, a big eye, and 50% are going to have a lowercase I. Same thing with dad, right? We just take his two genes that he has. Big eye goes here, little eye goes here, right? 50% of his sperm are going to have big eye, 50% of his sperm are going to have little eye. Now we've got two traits. So instead of just putting one letter in each, we have to figure out all the possible combinations. We can't just put one letter in an egg, okay? Because if we only put a B, then they're only going to have a gene for brown eyes, and they're not going to have the gene for tall or short. So we need a combination of two, and there's lots of different combinations. So here's one combination. The combination's always going to be one of each type of letter, okay? So one B and one T. The first combination we could have is a big B and a big T, okay? Can you find another combination? We could have a big T and a little t. We could also have a little b and a big T, or we could have a little b and a little t, okay? So these are all the combinations of genes or alleles that could go into mom's eggs, okay? Now remember, mom doesn't just have 4 eggs, she's got millions, and she is going to have about 1/4 of them have big B, big T, 1/4 big B, little t, 1/4 and 1/4, okay? So now, once we have that, we have to find out for dad too. So for dad, one of the combinations can be big P, big B, big T. We can also, for dad, have big B, little t. We can have big B, big T, And the last combination, big B, little t. Now notice some of these are the same. They're repeats, right? Big B, little t. There's two of those. Well, we don't need the repeats, okay? So we can just cross off any of them that are repeated. And in fact, when you're doing this, you don't even have to include the repeated ones. You'll also notice big B, big T is repeated. We can cross off one of those. So if you're writing out which ones are going in the sperm and the egg, okay, into the sperm, you could just write big B, big T, big B, little t, right? You don't have to include the repeated ones, okay? Because we want to find all the different combinations. So now that we have our sperm and our eggs, now we can make our Punnett square, because remember, with our Punnett square, our sperm and our eggs are going on the sides of the Punnett square. So all of my pink eggs, those are all down the left-hand side. Again, it doesn't matter which side, okay? They could go on the top. And then these guys, the sperm, are going to go on the other side. You'll notice here I have 16 squares, okay? This is the most number that we could have. We could have potentially 4 eggs and 4 sperm. In this case, we only have 4 different egg combinations and 2 sperm, so we're not going to use all of them. If you were drawing this on a sheet of paper, you could just draw these 8 squares. You don't need to include the other ones. But when we're doing them online, a lot of times I'll include all 16 squares, and then you just fill in the ones that you're going to use. So for this case, we're just going to use these 8 over here. So same thing as you always do, you're going to bring the letters down and across. So in this first square here, right, we're going to have a big B, a big T, and a little t. And usually we group the same letters together. So we would put a big B and a little b together and a big T and a little t together. So we don't put like BT, BT, we put all the B's together, all the T's together. So I filled in the rest of this Punnett square. Okay, you'll notice there's 8 here. Sometimes we might have 16, sometimes we might have 4. So the Punnett squares aren't always going to look the same. We need to look at how many brown and tall. Remember, brown is dominant and tall is dominant. So we need to look at these. How many of them have at least one capital B and one capital T? You should have gotten 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, all these have at least one capital B and one capital T. Now, what are the other ones? Okay, so brown and short. How many are brown and short? Well, those would be the remaining 2. Okay, so we've got 2 that are brown and short. And that's all you do. We have 8 total, so it'd be 6 out of 8 or 2 out of 8. You can simplify these, but I don't care if you don't. So this would be 1 out of 4, and that'd be 3 out of 4. All right, let's do one more practice problem. All right, cross a hybrid white-haired heterozygous long-tailed mouse with a brown-haired short-tailed mouse. Okay, these are a lot of words. Don't worry, you know what all these words mean. You just have to break them down. The first thing we need to do, figure out what traits are dominant and what traits are recessive. So for dominant, we notice this says hybrid white. Hybrid means 2 different genes. So if it's 2 different genes and it's white, white has to be dominant, right? This says heterozygous long-tailed. So again, it's going to have 2 different genes and it's long-tailed, so long-tail has to be dominant as well. So we've got white and long-tail, recessive is brown and short. So then we need to assign letters, right? So white is going to be big W, brown, little w. Long tail, big T, short tail, little t. Next thing we need to do is find out what is mom, what is her genotype, and what is dad. So I took the mom and dad out of this, so either one would work. But we're going to start up here, hybrid, white-haired. So 2 different genes, right? So big W, little w. Heterozygous long-tailed, so heterozygous, 2 different, right? So big T, little t. For dad, he's brown-haired, okay? We said brown is recessive, so he's going to have 2 little w's. And short tail is also recessive, okay? So he's all recessive. Now we have to figure out our sperm and our egg combination. Okay? So for mom, there's going to be 4 different combinations. W big T, little w big T, big W little t, and little w little t. Notice for dad, we only have 1 combination. He's only got little w's and little t's. So we're only going to have 1 sperm combination. Now, once we have those, remember the sperm and the eggs are going to go on our Punnett square. Again, I have 16 squares here. You don't need to use all of them. So I've got mom going down one side, dad going down the other. And then I just fill them in. I put all the W's together, I put all the T's together. So if we look, this mouse here, it has a big W and a big T. This one's going to be, right, white and have a long tail because it's got a capital W and a capital T. This one is going to be white and have a short tail. This one's going to be brown and have a long tail, and this one's going to be brown and have a short tail. So here we've got all of them are different. 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 4. And why is it 1 out of 4? Why not 8 or 16? Because we've got 4 squares total.